This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission. All rights reserved.
Oh. Yes.
Me at the moment, but they can
well,
hear
is that
me
necessary?
now. Yeah, is that necessary? Yeah. No, it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think I've got sound coming out of everybody's. Hello and welcome. I'm using a different broadcaster. I'm using this multi-stream event, so we're actually live on Facebook as well.
Oh my God!
I know. I think so. I might not have pressed the right
mixer.
And Mixer. Yeah, I'm broadcasting to Twitch and Mixer at the same time.
Well, people do that. Who
do they really?
Obi-Wan was doing it at one point, wasn't he? He was broadcasting to both.
That's amazing, actually. I've never thought about doing that.
You could also do it to Instagram.
Yeah, I could do, actually. That'll be an exciting thing.
Disappeared. Oh wait, no, wait. I can see a hand.
So yeah, hello and welcome. This is a role-playing game called Mythras, a tabletop game. Mythras is a set of rules that uses a D100 percentile dice. There's no levels in the game. Characters improve their individual skills, and that's how they get better. They can learn spells. Spells are powered by magic points rather than levels, and combat is based on a series of parrying and attacking and also evading, but certain if you get an advantage over somebody else, then you get what's known as a special, and hit location has armor on, and it is possible to decapitate people and to chop people's arms off, etc, etc. So it's quite an involved game once it gets going, but it's lots of fun, and we have 4 seasoned players with us who have been playing it for a significant amount of time. Too long. They actually finished off a series of adventures last week, so we're going to start off this week by doing experience rolls, which I'll talk about in a while. But before that, I'm going to allow the players an opportunity to say who they are and who the characters are that they will be playing today. And as always, we start off with Mr. Chugawugga.
Hi guys, I'm Chugawugga. The character that I play is called Gulliver. He was one of the first members of the party. Came across to the land of Odis with several others, including Hengist, who he's known the longest. He is an apprentice sorcerer by trade. That's basically what he came over to Odis to do, was to improve his sorcery skills and track down some more sorcery books in a set of journals that were done by a sorcerer called Fladnag. he was given this task by his mentor, Master Healy, and yes, that was his role. He was supposed to come across, get some more of these journals, and then head back. Unfortunately, it would seem that sorcery was different in the land of Odis than it was on his other home, and in the fact that there was orders around, orders of sorcery. If you weren't a member of an order, then you were classed as the renegade. So obviously, so that he could continue to practice his magical skills and improve, but also so that he could maybe learn more about Fladnag, he joined an order. The order that he chose was the Order of the Kraken, the Blue Order, which specializes in spells involving around communication, transportation, and teleportation. So as a sorcerer, Gulliver has the ability to shape his spells to a given situation. He can change things like the range, the intensity or the magnitude, the number of targets that it can affect. He can even combine several spells into a single casting, should he so desire. He also uses the folk magic schools of Mythras. He classes those as his cantrips, a lot less powerful but quicker to cast. And that is Gulliver. He was recently injured in the battle with the necromancer, took a nasty rack spell, I do believe, to his leg. He doesn't move around as good as he used to, but he's young and he doesn't let it get him down. And I, just quickly looking at the things to see who's unmuted, will pass on to Longshanks EPG.
Thanks very much, Chugawugga. Hi guys, I'm Longshanks EPG, and tonight I'm playing the character Hengist. Like Chugawugga mentioned, he is one of the original members of the party, and he came over on the ship with Gulliver and a few others, where they had various adventures on the ship, and then they arrived at Odis. He comes from land across the sea, as kind of indicated by the fact that he's come to Odis on the ship, where he trained as a warrior. He wears heavy armor, which is made out of iron, and emblazoned with his family crest, because he's from a noble family from across the sea, and he's now recently regained that status in Lindo by purchasing a house in the noble district. He fights his main fighting style with a sword and shield, but he can use his sword two-handed on occasion, and very rarely, when the situation requires it, he does fight with his fists as well. He's trying to be sort of like he's trying to build up his fame in Lindo and Odis as a warrior. And he does this by, when he has a particularly good fight, he will pay a bard to write a song about it and sing it. So the stories tend to get more and more elaborate, and enemies tend to double in size or double in number per telling. But he's happy with that because it's building his reputation, which is what he's all about. He also tries to, quite similar to Bartleby, he tries to sort of protect the innocent, and he doesn't really like wrongdoers, but not quite to the same degree as Bartleby. And I'll pass it over to Bartleby, who's played by Mr. Pickles.
That's me. I'm Mr. Pickles, and I play Bartleby Fumus, who is once a bard, or an aspiring bard, but bandits dashed that dream. Now since he was saved by the Church of Amriel, he has become a devoted practitioner of her desires. Amriel is the light moon goddess, and most of her tenets go around helping the innocent, saving people, delivering healing, cleansing, curing, and sometimes getting vague, abstract visions from her. Bartleby has both priest miracles, which are like curing disease and poison, but also he has folk magic, prayers, as he calls them, minor healing, protection, giving energy, keeping people awake and moving, reducing fatigue, stuff like that. Bartleby Fumus is also our team's lore person for history, monsters, the lower parts of the city, impoverished areas. Bartleby's even friends with the guards. And Bartleby kind of knows everybody and is saved by everybody. That's why he has to know people. Everybody in this group has saved Bartleby at least once. Hengist put up his shield and blocked lava from melting Bartleby on the spot. Gulliver's teleported Bartleby away. Hasra, who you'll hear about next, jumped in with minimum armor to save Bartleby from a tentacle monster. Now to you, Hasra.
Why, thank you. I am Medivac, and I play Hasra Khan. He's a nomad from the northern steppes of Odess. He is the last person to join this group after travelling for a couple of years through the wilderness. He was hired by the Count to meet the group and Captain Sav, if he remembers rightly, to go on an adventure and find out what was happening north of Lindo. There's strange seeds and strange things happening. Since then, he's had many wonderful adventures. He's learnt a lot about this group. He likes to use a short spear and a scimitar. He wears a linen armor, which is quilted head to toe, and he tends to always keep his arms covered because his left arm is a blackened mess from that first encounter with this group. He's very good in the wilderness. That is literally his home. He's very uncomfortable in cities. He does bear it with gritted teeth, but he's very like a fish out of water while in a city, which does come across. Not the most sociable person, but he does try his best. And he does talk with a bit of an accent, so that tends to put people on the back foot straight away. And with that, I shall pass on to inwils.
I feel that I should talk with a bit of an accent now, just to sort of like set the. I was just messing about because I couldn't find my data things.
You're going to be messing about with
like the CPU and the frames drop and everything else. I couldn't find it, but I've got them now and I can see them, so I'm a lot happier. The party have come to the end of one sort of like adventure when they were trying to shut down the head of the Thieves Guild called Sniffer. It was a range of successes, and as Bartleby mentioned, he befriended not only the town guards but also two ruffians from the streets. Get them to aid them and the party in their work. Hengist and Bartleby went off into a tavern and tried to pretend to be somebody else, and I think Bartleby did quite a bit of saving there. The party then went on a sewer barge and encountered various floating objects down in the sewer, including a rather large alligator or crocodile that they can quite happily say probably electrified or shocked or stunned, and to make it go away. And then they came across the merchant that they were planning on meeting, who I think was called Clarence.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's right. It. And there was some a battle ensued, and the Clarence got away, but the party decided to wreck the silks and the spices that were actually on the boat, on the barge, and then that was it. And they got rewarded some experience points or experience rolls, which they are about to use now, and I'll tell you how that actually works in 1 second. Before we do that, I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear about the professional skills that I put in the Discord. So just to remind you, standard skills everybody has. Okay, and so there's a huge amount of those going from, so I'm just calling up a blank character sheet so people can see it on the stream. So there's a huge amount of standard skills that the party every character has, but then they are professional skills, and professional skills require a little bit more attention, a little bit more engagement with. Now, up to this point, we've been defaulting professional skills down onto another skill set, but from this point onwards, that will not happen in that sense. So just to remind you, if you've got a list of the professional skills in front of you, then they range from things like there's a range of things from acrobatics to tracking, sleight of hand, musicianship, etc., etc. So first rule is you cannot default onto any law skill or magical skill that are in the professional skill set. So, for example, you couldn't say, I'm going to default onto folk magic and just suddenly cast spells. In a similar way, things like law spells, things like literacy, things like culture. Well, culture you might be able to do, but things like that require some kind of healing, for example, things like that. If I rule that they needed something to be taught, then that's it. You can't use them at all. Anything other than that, you can actually use by taking the attributes that it is assigned to and then rolling it at a formidable level of difficulty, which is literally half your skill score. So say, for example, you wanted to do some acting. Acting is double your charisma, so that would be your skill, but your difficulty level would be formidable. If you wish to, say, for example, you do a bit of acting in the adventure and you suddenly think, oh, I quite like this, I want to increase that skill level, then you can do that by yourself, but the skill level starts off at 0. So you're learning how to act by yourself, and it's going to take you a long time. But you can invest skill rolls just as normal. Obviously, it's going to be the skill, you're going to roll your intelligence, so you're naturally going to start increasing quite rapidly. However, if you want to invest time and energy into the skill, then you can learn the skill by giving over the required amount of experience rolls, which I think is 3, but I'll need to check. And therefore, you gain it at the basic level of those attribute scores. So beforehand, if you're just trying to increase your acting skill by yourself, then it would start at 0 and work up. If you pay the experience rolls and somebody starts to teach you in the thespian ways, then your skill would instantly become charisma times 2. Probably not a good one for you, Hengist, because I don't think your charisma is that.
Charisma's 4.
Yeah. so yeah, that would start off pretty much rock bottom. So it is a good idea to keep an eye out on the various professional skills and see how they go. And then if you would like to learn a new one, then that's absolutely fine. So you've all got experience rolls. So we're going to start off by learning some new skills or perfecting the ones that you've got. So just to remind everybody who's watching the stream that generally how the rules work is that the characters or the players get a set number of experience rolls per adventure. It tends to be 2 per session, unless, for example, this one there's a lot of non-adventuring going on. It might only be 1, and therefore you get those experience rolls and they top them up over 4 sessions, and then they can spend them at the beginning of the 5th. They decide where they want to put it. It's totally up to them. They roll a 1d100 percentile dice and they add on their intelligence score. And then hopefully if they get level with the skill or higher, then they are allowed to increase it by 1d4 plus 1 point. If, however, they get less than their skill, then the skill only increases by 1 point. So they get an increase no matter what. The other way that they can actually increase their scores is if they fumble. And if they fumble, which means anything on a 99 to 100, on a percentile dice, that's a fumble. And that means that the skill didn't go off. There's dire consequences, but they get a 1% increase when we camp back again. Oh, that's...
Sorry, there was a new button that I didn't know what it did, and I pressed it.
Whereabouts is that?
Ooh.
Under health and armor, it just says 1d20, and I didn't know whether or not it was just going to allow us to do like a hit location.
That's weird. For what did it actually roll?
I don't
think it rolled anything. Is this? Are we up to sheet 3 of the
2.7 we're on
Oh,
version 2.7.
yeah, version 3's coming out soon, which means there's going to be a lot of alteration. They're going to sort of
Right.
condense a lot of things down. I think at the moment things like brawn and endurance happen in 2 places at once.
Right.
And
I just
things
didn't
like
know
that.
whether or not it was just going to come up and say, just sort of like roll a human hit
Oh,
location.
I've seen it. Yeah, roll 1d20.
Yeah. So rather than doing the, just rolling 1d20, we could just click on it on our character sheet if it was a
It
human.
actually rolls a 1d20, then 2 d10s.
Don't tell me we're doing been doing hit location wrong all this time.
That is really strange. I wonder why it does that. Can you
Maybe
see? Because I've got 3D dice up, so when it rolls it, I can see the dice that it actually
right.
rolls. Okay then, so Chuggerwugger, let's come to you with Gulliver, shall we?
So I was a bit lax last adventure, and I didn't write my experience rolls down at the end of it. I knew I had spent them all last time, and we came to the conclusion that we had 10 from the previous sessions.
Okay.
And so the first thing that I would like to do, I would like to purchase a new spell.
Okay.
Within the folk magic schools,
Cool.
which is a cost of 3.
3 experience rolls.
And
Yeah.
takes 1 week.
1 week certainly
to
does.
train, to give you an idea. And the spell that I would like to take is as follows.
Incognito. Let me just call that up.
I got the description there. Incognito alters the facial features of the recipient to a bland, unmemorable countenance.
Okay.
It does not affect the voice, mannerisms, or physical size presence of the recipient.
Oh, so the nice bit is,
They do not stand out from the crowd.
Anyone under the effects of incognito is actively ignored by those who might otherwise be searching for him or her. He is simply overlooked and discounted. It's interested, resisted by endurance, touch, and it's also a trigger.
I didn't understand that bit. It must be whilst they're actually doing a perception check, is it?
Let me just check on that. Trigger.
And my reason behind taking it is, like I was saying to Mr. Pickles, nothing stands out like a ginger kid in the crowd.
Well, a trigger spell can be cast successfully but have their effects delayed by the caster. If the spell is not triggered during the scene, it dissipates naturally. So you're not classed as,
But
normally.
it only lasts a scene anyway, doesn't it?
Yeah, but for example, if you were running, you were going through the streets, you could cast it at the beginning, so you're not actually sustaining, you're not holding the spell.
Right.
You just cast it. And then all of a sudden, as the guards came towards you, as you're going through the streets, you could say, I'm going to trigger my incognito spell.
Right.
And then it would start off.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, that's good then.
That's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's going to take 3 points. So that's going to leave me with 7 points remaining.
Cool.
I want to continue to invest in my literacy common skill. My ability to read
and write. Yeah.
Right. Purely because it's one of the skills that I need to get up to a certain level. I think it's 70 to advance within my order.
For your order, yeah.
Yeah, it's currently on 58. My intelligence is 14. So I'm going to be rolling the 1d100, adding 14, and I need to get above 58.
58, that is true.
I got 91. So I'm now going to roll a 1d4 and add 1 onto it.
Correct. 3 points.
So it's now 61. Is that correct? So I'm going to go again.
So this would be 6 rolls done. That doesn't, I think.
Okay, so that's now 62.
Yeah.
I'm going to do another one.
That'll be 63.
Okay, and I've got, how many's that done?
I think you got 4 left.
4 left. One more.
Oh. The dice rolls are not favourable to Gulliver tonight.
Another one. Oh.
You got 2
One
left.
at a time. 84. Get in there. So 1d4 plus 1. I'm currently on 65, and that is...
Oh, nice. 70. And you've got 1 more roll left.
Okay, so my last roll I want to be putting into... I'm going to put into folk... Actually, no, I'm going to put it into Streetwise, which is currently on 40.
40, okay.
So that'd be...
nice. Nice. Yeah, 1d4 plus 1. 42.
So that's going to be 42, and that's all my rolls. All my rolls done.
Fantastic. And we come to Mr. Bartleby next.
That would be me. I was hoping to purchase a professional skill that you and I had talked about. I just want to confirm, because we talked about it as a knowledge skill. I'm presuming that'd be the same as a lore skill.
Yes.
For lower Lindo, specifically.
Yes. That is a lore skill. Yeah.
Okay, that's the skill that I wanted to purchase here, so I could start getting some knowledge about the who and what, so we don't get blindsided as much.
Nice. I was just yeah, that's a knowledge. I was just looking for my my knowledge, the law. Is it intelligence times 2?
Yes.
Yeah. So therefore you would pay out your normal 3 skill rolls, yeah?
Yes. And
we'll probably say that you probably spend some time in your bar, in that tavern that I forget who it is that owns it. Who's your
Marissa? She was the one who introduced me to Mickey and Flynn.
Yes, Mickey and Flynn. Yeah, that's it. The 2 street urchins. So you probably spend. That's probably how you're learning it. You take 3 skill rolls, which means that it'll become an intelligence times 2 as a base roll. That'd be your skill to start off with. And what you'll probably do is spend some time being round, sort of like listening to her, hearing what's happened, what's gone on in the past. Maybe also listening to those people in the background. Sort of like those old people that sat round a fire somewhere, saying, when I was a lad, and things like that, and sort of like collecting all those stories. Yeah, so I mean that will cost you those 3 points that will give you, which takes you down to 7. We've currently got a week, so we can work on that. Yeah, what would you like to do with your other 7?
The next 2 I'd like to spend on deceit.
Ooh, that's a standard skill. Yeah.
Yes.
What's your current deceit?
It's currently at 37.
37.
Bartleby, as I said, he was a bard, and then he joined the priest life, so he has some skills from his old days.
Yeah.
My intelligence is 14. Here is my first roll. Narrow failure.
Yeah.
Increase that by 1.
So 6 left.
It is at 38. Here is 1 more on the deceit.
Oh, the dice rolls are not favourable to you guys today at all. 5 left.
Didn't learn too much. Perfect. The next 2 are going into influence. Influence is at 49.
Nice.
First roll. Not great.
Now
I'm at 50.
Now it's 50.
And here is the second one for influence at 50.
Ooh, what's happening with your rolls today?
I'm just not convincing anybody.
Above 30, above 40.
This is when I suddenly start to think,
maybe we should give them more experience.
Is roll 20 not working?
Isn't this a good thing for combat and things like that?
This would be good if we were
So
playing.
save them.
Yes.
Let's see, I have 3 left, so the next one's going on folk magic.
Okay.
Which is a 72.
72.
Give me a 30. Give me a 30. Oh.
Nice.
Well then.
1d4 plus 1.
4.
Nice. 4.
Excellent.
So that's 76 now. Trombones left the big parade. 2 more.
Next one's going on exhort, which is at 74.
74. Oh, yes, 1d4.
Amriel loves this guy.
Yeah, obviously 74, 78. Obviously, Amriel's looking down favourably on you, and anything that you're channeling into magic, they're thinking, yes, I'll give him it.
Yeah.
And what about the last one?
The last one's going to be on my devotion to Amriel, which is a 78.
Oh, yeah. I think Amriel. Oh no, well maybe not.
A little bit. Well, I'm up to 80% on my devotion. People
Excellent.
try and say I'm not devoted, but
So just so people know, Bartleby is a theist. So in this game we don't have clerics. They're called theists, and he worships a god or goddess called Amriel, who is the goddess of the moon. The bright moon, the light moon, rather than Margoth, which is the dark moon. They're sort of like twins together. Brilliant. So that's Bartleby over and done with. Not so good with deceit, but increasing a lore skill for Streetwise and gaining more spell prowess, which means that we move along in the. I'm just going round the screens. That's all I'm doing. And so underneath Bartleby, we have Hengist. What would you like to spend your rolls on?
So the first thing Hengist is going to do is he's going to use his fumble that he got on his main combat style from last episode. So that means his combat style goes from 91 to 92.
Nice.
And then he's going to use his first experience roll on his main combat style as well, trying on the quest to get that as high as possible.
Cool. So what is...
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
It was on 92.
No,
so that goes up by 1.
93, yeah.
And then he'll...
How many rolls
he has 6 rolls.
Thank you.
So we've now got 5 left.
You've got 5 left, yeah.
He's going to use a second one on his main combat style. So it's on 92. Nope. So that goes up to 94. No, it was 93, so it goes up to 94. Sorry, bad maths.
So 4 more.
Okay. He's then going to spend the next 2 on his endurance. So his endurance at the moment is on 80.
Okay.
So that goes up to 81.
81. 3 more left.
The second one is going to go on endurance again. So that's 81. Nope, so that's not 82.
These are going up really slow, this
They
session.
There we go. So then he's going to spend 1 on his brawn skill. Get his strength up. So his strength is currently on 83. Nope. So that goes up to 84.
84. And one last one.
So that one is going to go on his unarmed combat skill, which is currently on 40. Yeah.
Oh, yes, you can have that.
So that's 1d4 plus 1. Goes up by 4, so it's now on 44.
44. All the 4s, droopy draws. Brilliant. And I think that's Hengist done.
That is Hengist done.
And so we move on to Hasra. How many skill points do you have, Hasra, to start?
I have 10 skill rolls to do.
Fantastic.
I'm going to be doing 4 in my nomadic combat skill, 3 in my perception, and 3 in survival.
Okay.
So my nomadic combat skill is at 89 at the moment.
Did you have any fumbles?
No, sadly, no fumbles.
No fumbles. Okay. No. So what's your combat skill at?
It's 89 at the moment.
89. Oh, it's high.
So here we go.
Ooh.
Oh, so close yet so far.
But it does mean that it's 90 now.
It's now 90, yes.
Which is nice.
Second roll is going to be, so again, 91.
Slowly creeping up.
Surely. And third is 92. And last one there, 93.
93%. Nice.
So my perception is at 84.
Nice.
And there's going to be 3 in that, so here we go.
84. 85.
So 85. And the next one is... Oh! And then we'll do a 1d4 plus 1. Oh, 4.
Nice.
Well done. So 89.
89.
And we'll do that. 74, so 90 for my
90.
perception.
Nice one.
Now, my survival's at 65. I've realised I've been lacking in that, so I thought I'd best put some in it, seeing it's about one of my primary skills or professions. So here we go. So it's at 65. That's 66. Oh.
Ooh.
No. So 71.
71. And
So
the
last one is so 72. And that is me done and dusted. Thank you.
And I think that survival probably reflects what the party's been up to recently, because you've been spending a lot more time within Lindo. So that's probably why you haven't been out and about. But you know, it's restful time now, and I'm going to say that we're going to spend a total of 2 weeks to make sure that Gulliver can learn his spell, and everybody can go out and perfect their skills, and Bartleby can spend some time in Melissa's tavern. What's Melissa's tavern called?
Oh,
does it have a name?
The Drowning Mare. There's a horse name in it, but it's not. There's not actually a sign with a word. It's just a symbol, so we can just make up.
Drowning Stallion.
Drowning Stallion. That's what it kind of looks like.
I actually have
a picture of a horse.
No, any characters, NPCs. Any NPCs I make character sheets for, and then store them all together. And in the GM notes, or in the normal notes on that thing, it tells me, and I just found Melissa, and it just says bio information Drowning Stallion, which means that's what it is. So so you've sort of like spent some time in the Drowning Stallion. So there's going to be 2 weeks for anybody to do anything that they would like to do within Lindo or the surrounding area. So I'm not going to come round to everybody individually. Bartleby will come to you last, because there's something going on at your church that we need to engage with. But I'll come to that last. So Bartleby, you're free to chip in whenever. Is there anything that anybody else would like to do while you have the downtime?
Yes. Hasra wants to relocate his cottage in the woods. As it's now been he discovered that he lives there by Sniffer and his cohorts, so he wants to move to another house, possibly burn this one down to hide any the fact that it's been there. So yes, that's what he will do.
Don't burn down half the forest as well.
No, use his skills.
just to let you know, this is, as luck has it, Hasra, would you believe that there is another cottage almost like identical to,
oh my goodness.
Do you know what? It's even got the same
it's got the same tomato ketchup on the floor.
Exactly.
And
this is what you could have won.
There's a bandit outside.
Oh my god. There is.
So this is now so what I'm going to say that you're going to do, Hasra, is that you're going to roll your survival skill. Now you might be thinking, why on earth am I rolling a survival skill here? But
no, I understand. Yeah,
it's a survival. What I'm going to say is that your survival skill is going to demonstrate how difficult it is to actually locate your new accommodation. So somewhere on your character sheet you need to record the score of this. Now just to let you know, the normal difficulty is standard. If you roll and you fail, okay, then it's increased. Or if you roll it and think, I want to roll a different one, then it goes up to hard, formidable, so forth and so on. So it's really up to you. Can I just say that if you fail, what I'm saying is that if anybody wishes to try to find out where your house is, they would have to still go through the normal way to
channels
find it.
Yeah.
But because of
But there'll be a sign saying Hasra's house.
yeah. Well, more people are likely to know, or they watch you go there. But your survival skill gives an overall score for it.
Could I take time to do this to augment it, like as in would take minutes in a sense, but take days? As opposed to minutes in a sense, to do that, to make that.
Yeah, so the maximum you can do it is hours, which would take it down to very easy, and you can't go more than very easy. So we can set the difficulty at very easy. Go for it. Roll that survival skill. Right, so you got a 43.
43 out of 72.
Yeah, so happy with that? Are you going to keep with that one?
I will do. I mean, he's sure he's done his best there, and I'm sure he'll be fine with that.
So we'll be saying that every time you go out to your house now. We won't keep rolling the survival roll, but you take a different route. You make sure that you sweep up your tracks, etc., etc., and you've probably made sure that it's a little bit more. You've mended any of the windows that were broken when you moved in.
I was going to say one thing we'll do as well is he will set traps or little alarm traps in a sense, not anything elaborate, but he will set up like dry branches around, so if he walks it'll crackle or
so it'd probably be things like tripwires and things like that.
Exactly.
Dry branches in a forest would probably be going click, click, click. So we'll use that 43 to represent that as well. So wonderful. Say for example I'm trying to stealth up onto you, and even if I get a roll and I succeed with a 36, your roll would be higher than that in that opposed roll, so you would hear the crack or the jingle, etc., etc. Brilliant. Anything else that anybody else would like to do? Hasra does have 2 beds if anybody would like to go and stay.
I was wondering about that.
He loves sleepovers, does good.
Yes.
No, there's nothing that Gulliver needs to do.
Okay, cool. Anybody else?
No, there's nothing that Angus needs to do at the moment.
Okay then. So Bartleby, is there anything that you would like to do straight off before I tell you what is going to be happening?
I don't think there's anything in particular. Bartleby's just been spending this time down at Lower Lindo.
Okay then, so what happens round about this time of year in Lindo is that your church has almost like a church council, and in that church council they have a discussion about worthy causes that they would like to actually support during their forthcoming year. And it's interesting because there's lots of causes that are sort of like brought to the front and brought to the council, and some of them are more about priests or high priests or acolytes trying to have get some kind of political sway. So rather than being very honourable and sort of like saying they should help orphans or something like that, they sort of like make up these weird sort of like offshore accounts or things that are maybe happening, and in order to advance their own political agendas and careers. Now I have to say at this point that it's not rife across the Church of Amriel, but there are some people higher up that have less feelings for the less able and they're more passionate about themselves. And because of your prowess, your expertise, your knowledge with the slums, you have been approached to actually provide some kind of positive approach, some kind of manifesto and speeches to actually push the cause of the slums across. Now, this actually brings in the rules that came out in the Mythras Companion, which is called the social conflict rules. And what we're going to happen, we're not going to spread it out all over in an adventure. You are going to present your opening case, and then we'll see what actually happens from there. Now, just to remind everybody, and you might need these at some point, so please do make a note of them somewhere. You have 3 resolution pools at your disposal. You have composure, integrity, and resolve. Okay, so you have composure, and I'll pop these into the chat so you can see them as well. So they're called resolution pools, and there's composure, if I can spell it, and no, I've missed out an O. There's composure, integrity, and resolve, and those are the 3 pools. Now, just to remind you, composure, okay, so your composure pool is your power divided by 3, and of course halves go up. Your integrity is your charisma divided by 3, halves going up. And finally, your resolve is your intelligence divided by 3. Okay, and those are your hit points for for social encounters. So basically, what will happen is that as you argue your case, Bartleby, then things will actually, those will be your hit points that you can actually do damage in. Now, we're not going to do a huge amount this evening, because I want to give you some time to actually think about your organization and what you're going to say. But I am interested in what skill you are going to be using. So it's completely up to you. You actually have a skill that you attack with. And so it can be anything from acting down to willpower, if that's what you would like to do. So do you think there's a skill that you would actually be using to persuade the church? Yeah.
I think, because if I'm imagining this correctly, people would be taking turns going up and speaking to the priests, high priests, acolytes, initiates. Correct. So I think oratory would be my most appropriate skill.
Okay, that sounds really good, and you will then decide at a later date which resource pool, which pool you will be attacking and taking the defense in. And of course, once that resolve pool gets down to 0, that means you have lost your case. And that's it. It's gone. So you've probably got a bit of time before this actually happens. But you've been approached and somebody said, oh, yes, will you please, will you please do this for us? And you sort of like eagerly accept and sort of like, yes. And you're sort of like, you feel quite proud about this, that you're going to be championing the cause of the slums, etc. And there might even be a passion materializing out of this as well in the future. So have a think about that, and then we kind of have a discussion about it offline, and then we'll bring it into the game as things happen. Now, nobody mentioned about what you would like to do. Nobody mentioned anything about Clarence. Is there something that the party would like to do about Clarence, or are you quite happy to think, we've caused Sniffer harm, Clarence got away, and that's it, we'll just leave it now? Or is there something that you would like to pursue with him?
From my point of view, I was assuming that we had informed the city guard.
Okay, then, yeah.
About what had happened. and they had decided the best course of action to how to handle it.
Okay.
I mean, thinking about it, I would have thought we would maybe just, passed on the information to them that we thought was relevant.
Okay then.
If
So
everybody's in agreement to that.
Yeah, I was hoping to maybe pass a message on to Clarence as well, in the words of tell your boss, if he pushes, we push back. That sort of, just to kind of a little threat out there. But that's again open to. That's how Hasra would think. He'd be like, you come into my house, I will come back into your house.
Okay
sort of
then.
thing.
So anybody who's got a commerce roll, if you have a commerce roll it now, and this is to see whether or not you naturally know of Clarence in the district, within everything. So standard and standard. So Gulliver and Bartleby, you're sort of like quite familiar with the merchants around. You even though Gulliver's come late to the party, both of you sort of like spend time with the merchant. Bartleby, you probably spend more time in the slums, which is almost like meaning that Gulliver probably spends more time in the civilized areas, not hobnobbing with the rich, since that is Hengist's. I just noticed that there's some tiny little red dots on the screen that was annoying me. So Hengist is with the gentry, etc., etc. So Bartleby, you make inquiries around the slums whether or not there's any lower level merchants or anybody that people deals with. Any merchants that people from this area sort of like deal with in the in Lindo itself. And Gulliver, you do the same but more in the merchant area of Lindo, and you probably just sort of like go for a wander around, keep an eye out. You go to the morning markets, see whether or not that there's anybody that knows the Clarence or anybody who has dealings with them. And it's Gulliver, you actually do come across a small store. It seems to be a series of small merchants. They're not very big. They're all three sharing the same stall, and they're selling what appears to be some kind of metalwork, amulets, shovels, things like that. It's very poor, and you're not very impressed with them. But you are surprised to find that somebody actually does know somebody called Clarence, a merchant called Clarence in Lindo. And you're sort of like, your heart starts to race a little bit, because Bartleby, you didn't find anything, and you sort of like think, wow, I'm onto somebody. And at that moment, what one of the merchants says to you, you're busy talking to them, and he says, oh, there he is now. And they say, Clarence, and they sort of like signal and wave him over, and you're sort of like facing the three merchants, and Clarence is coming up behind you, Gulliver. What would you like to do? Incognito spell.
By Jove, I'm good. I'm doing that. I would. Okay
then. Yeah. So incantations then.
Can you do it so that it only affects certain people then?
Well, the range is touch, and so it's not necessarily self. As long as you can touch them. So one of the things that I've heard about it used before is almost like when trying to get a high level person or somebody who's well known, try to escape them out of the city. And with putting the spell on them, this person would normally be really famous and everybody would go, oh, there they are. But this spell actually counters that, but they still go around with their hoods up, and because the spell would not be triggered until that guard says, oi, you, stop, take your hood down. And as you took your hood down, you would trigger the spell. Yeah, go for it.
Or did you mean targets?
Yeah, so it was more like, so these other people that I've just been speaking to, could I just have it so that when I turned round, one person would actually...
Yeah, that would be absolutely fine, because you would probably have it on and then you would turn around and then trigger it as you say.
so
Yeah.
they,
So we'll
so
probably
we-
say that you've been practicing with this spell. And you've sort of like had it on before you went out because it seems to be a good spell to have up. So I just need a roll just to make sure that it's not a crit or a fumble. That's all I need to know.
So that's the roll, and of course it's not. I don't think it's resisted because I'm casting it on myself rather
Correct,
than
yeah.
on somebody else. So my roll is
52, yeah.
pleased with that. 52 out of 85.
So you sort of like Clarence is coming up behind you, and are you going to turn around and activate the spell? Is that the idea?
That's correct. That's what I'm going to. That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so you turn round and activate the spell as Clarence gets close to you. How tall is Gulliver?
He is 153 centimeters,
Which is about
which doesn't change.
is that
5 foot.
just over 5 foot? Is that?
Yeah.
Oh, so he's quite tiny then. Yeah.
Yeah,
and-
he's small and scrawny. Yeah.
Yeah, you sort of like turn round and you sort of like hit almost just slightly above the belt of this rather tall, very skinny, very sort of like almost malnutritioned sort of like merchant. He's obviously got quite a nice outfit on, but it almost like hangs over him or hangs from him as if a piece of cloth had been chucked over some kind of skeletal frame, and it just sort of like holds it, and you sort of like look up and he has a really thin, gaunt face with a nose that can only be probably related to some kind of beak. It's very pronounced and very long and pointed, and you sort of like look up and he has this goatee chin, and you notice that his chin is sort of like naturally elevated through various degrees. So he's obviously walking around with his nose in the air, and you turn around and you sort of like hit his navel sort of like area, and he looks at the three merchants, and he doesn't even call them by name or anything. He just sort of like goes, "Yes." And they said, "Oh, this young lad was looking for you." And he sort of like gazes down at you and says, "Yes."
Gulliver is going to change his voice somewhat, and he's going to say, my master told me to seek you out. He requires a new garment manufacturing.
Okay. So this isn't your incognito spell, isn't it?
No.
No. So I think this is very much acting, which is a professional skill. So you need double your charisma. Okay, and the role that you're looking for is formidable.
Oh, joy.
You're not trying to convince him or influence him or anything like that. You're just sort of like trying to act as if you're not somebody else.
Okay, so I'm only 1d100.
Yeah.
My skill is 20.
Cool.
Double my charisma.
So it'll be 10. Oh, yeah. You sort of like you sort of go, and he sort of like looks at you as if to think, and he just sort of says, "What does one want, boy?"
You are Clarence.
I am Clarence, the esteemed merchant here in Lindo. I am somewhat renowned for my fine silks, my exquisite perfumes, and of course my luscious shop, which all the women just adore. I am in no need for a boy of any description, thank you very much.
I think I might be confused. My master says that happens a lot.
Yes, well, you certainly appear to be confused at the present moment in time, young
I might have
boy.
got the wrong Clarence. Is there any other merchants called Clarence that make clothing?
And he sort of like leans down to you, and there's this whiff of sweet perfume.
Gulliver's just sort of like cower back slightly as if he was expecting a reprimand. Or...
Yeah, and you sort of like probably bump into the table a bit, you know, and he says, "Boy, there is only one Clarence in Lindo. Believe me, there is not enough room for two of us. I am finished with you, boy. You may depart." And he sort of like looks over to the merchants, and he sort of like looks at the table, and he says, "Well, I suppose some people have to start somewhere." And he sort of like turns, and there's a flip of his cloak, and he sort of like waltzes off or strides off, and as he sort of walks away, he sort of like says, "What a strange young... Ew. Totally nondescript, that person."
Yeah, Gulliver's going to sort of like turn around and walk into the crowd. I mean, our Clarence resembled nothing like the Clarence that way. I mean, he was sort of like short and dumpy, and
He was extremely round.
although, as me and Mr. Pickles were discussing, he moved with grace.
And we saw him differently when we approached.
And he was very fast. So Gulliver's
and he was also, as you are aware, a spellcaster.
Yeah.
Incognito.
Yeah. Oh no, it must have been something else.
The dumpy
Because
spell.
it can't alter his
Pillows.
Disguise.
Yeah, it could have been. Yeah.
This is a disguise skill, isn't it?
Professional.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
professional.
Gulliver's going
Intelligence
to
plus.
make it known to the other people about, that he did encounter someone called Clarence.
Okay, well let's pick it up there, and let's take you to your favourite port of call, which never changes. The food on the table always the same. Everybody's exactly the same, and that's one of the joys of the Hairy Hobgoblin. It's like going to a good Premier Inn or Costa Coffee. Everything, whatever you ask for, is exactly the same. And you've arrived here safely this time, because last time you tried to come for an early for your monthly meeting, or your half monthly meeting. You had some issues on the way, and you sort of like walk in, and you meet from all separate directions. Bartleby, you arrive from your church, probably a little bit excited and honoured that you've been asked to give this rendition, this argument to your council. Hengist, you probably just come back from hobnobbing it up with the gentry. Hasra, you've got that crafty smile on your face, thinking nobody will ever find my house now. And your linen robes smell faintly of wood smoke from the burning of your previous place. And Gulliver,
I do not know what you're talking about.
What else? And Gulliver, you come in from your encounter with Clarence, and you sit down in your normal chair, and Basil Earless brings over your food, and sort of like says, here you are, your normal food, and there's wine for anybody who drinks it, etc., etc., and plenty of cheese for Gulliver, and some fresh some kind of game that has been killed and brought up, and everything's quite enjoyable and quite nice, and you sort of like sit round your table. And Gulliver, you probably recount the story that
not until he's finished off all of the cheese that's on his plate.
Okay, so Gulliver's
nothing gets done before.
yeah, so Gulliver's sort of like stuffing his face. And Bartleby, is there anything that you would like to tell the group? Remember, you found nothing in the slums to do with Clarence.
Well, as people arrive, Bartleby keeps telling the same excitement to him, which is probably droll to everybody else. The annual meeting of the minds, where the best and brightest of Amriel's faithful get to go, and I've been chosen to speak and to try and persuade the higher ups of problems.
That's amazing, Bartleby. I could not expect any more from somebody of your oratory skills.
Oh, well, there are many priests above myself. I would have expected Priest Jeremiah Cross to be chosen for this honor. I hope I don't let the people of Lower Lindo down.
No, I'm sure you won't. You have a very big heart, and Amriel is behind you at all times.
It's very true. Gulliver, are you even going to breathe in between bites?
Gulliver just sort of like looks up and then shakes his head. But once he's finished, he'll sort of like put the last bit of cheese into his mouth and sort of wipe the remains of it from his lips, and then he'll say, I was down in the merchant quarters, and well, I was asking out about the merchant that we met down in the sewers, and he wasn't the same as he was there. It was like he was a completely different person, or he was a completely different person.
Or it could have been one of his underlings pretending to be him, so he doesn't get caught.
I don't know. The other merchants seem to know him. So if they were pretending to be him, then they've been doing it for a long time. But then again, you would have thought that if somebody was pretending to be him and he didn't want to get caught, then he would have sent the person who was pretending to be him when there was a chance for him getting caught, when he was down in the sewers.
That's what I meant. Perhaps the Clarence we met in the sewers is the fake Clarence.
Could have been. Although he moved really, really quickly. Anyway, I don't know what's happening.
Is that just in general?
Did you ask if there are any more Clarences in the city?
I asked. I said, because I had to pretend that I was somebody else, and I said I pretended that I was sort of like really stupid, and I said, oh, maybe I've got the wrong Clarence. Is there any other Clarences? And he said, no, there's only one Clarence.
Maybe perhaps that's
more than one Gulliver.
Yeah, I would have thought so. I'm sure there'd be more than one Clarence. Maybe it was a bit of bravado on his behalf. Maybe it's like, I'm the only Clarence here. You shop at my shop.
It may well have been. Anyway, I didn't want to hang around too much because I was I was frightened that if he was under a spell or anything, then he might recognise me. So I made my way quickly away from the area, and then I came here and ate cheese, and then talked to you.
That sounds like the city guards haven't done anything about him then. Didn't we notify that? I don't remember if we did.
Well, you know that the city, maybe the city guards are helping out Sniffler too much.
Oh no, the city guards aren't corrupt. Believe me, I'm great friends with many of them. I think they would be interested to know that somebody's taking money from Count Bastion's pockets, though. Illegally imported goods.
Yeah, you're actually right, Bartleby. We didn't do that roll, so let's do it now. Do you obviously want to influence your guard friends?
Yes. I wouldn't be lying.
Yeah, so you can augment it with your passion for the guards.
Yeah, that's a 58.
So you're going to add 12 to it. Then roll your influence.
Brings my influence up to a 63. Pow.
Yeah,
Can I use a point of luck?
well, you probably do take. You probably just don't do it in seconds. You probably take minutes, which makes 95 out of 95 for the easy roll, which means that you will succeed. And you sort of like go into great depth and tell them what's happening. And first of all, the city guards do not seem to be impressed. How much information are you going to give them? That's what I'm interested in.
I wanted to say I'm not implicating any of my friends in anything. All of this is like because I don't want them to get in trouble.
Okay.
This is stuff that I found by the guiding light of Amriel.
So give me the brief points that you would like to communicate.
I've in my exploration of Lower Lindo, I've found evidence to suggest that there are merchants there who are denying Count Bastian the money for the taxes that he'd be getting from taxing the imported goods.
Corrupt merchants.
Correct. And I would name names there. Say Clarence easily.
Yeah.
And that I followed a line of clues in the sewers and found evidence and made my way out by skin of my teeth and with Amriel's help. And I'll point them to where that sewer was, I guess, too.
Yeah, and you probably do this before you've met, you're meeting with everybody, and you sort of like relate this to the group, and so the guards are obviously taking this quite seriously from your role, and they know, they trust you. You're a friend of the guards. You're not like one of those ex-city guard members. You are somebody that they trust, and you bought them all drinks, and that's important. And you sort of like relate it to your party. Is there anything further you would like to say or do?
Just for Gulliver to not worry, he's safe. Guards are on it.
Okay, so
is not worried.
So as you sit and eating and discussing this, a young girl comes over to your table.
How young?
You figure she's probably about 12, maybe 13. Right. She has dark hair that are crumped up into two sort of like pigtails coming out either way. She has a fringe that is brushed slightly to one side, but it's actually plastered to her forehead. She doesn't look like she's washed very much at all, and you all get this sudden smell of uncleanness. She's rather dumpy. She seems to be wearing breeches and a shirt type tunic, and she has the tunic rolled up, and despite it being quite chilly outside, she seems to sort of like march into the actual hairy hobgoblin, and Basil sort of like sees her and says, sorry, we don't take, and she just sort of like ignores him, blanks, and she almost like stomps across to the table, and she appears sort of like next to you. She's not really the nightmare girl that you normally get.
She's scary, isn't she?
She's a bit.
Can you click on tokens?
I can't click on it to open it up.
No, but can you select it?
I can't select her. I can select me.
Okay, if you select you and press Z on the keyboard, what happens?
What?
A big me appears on the
large
screen.
picture.
Yeah. So what I've just done is that
I have a whole lot of ginger.
Yeah, I've done that for the viewers. So anybody watching the screen now just sees the big token of her. Sort of like hanging around. So you
do they get to see my big token?
Well, they've seen your big token plenty of times before.
What is it? Is it the ring?
Yep.
It is the ring.
We watched a bad video and we're going to die in 7 days now.
Yeah, that's it. And
Or Scary Movie 5.
she stomps her way across the floorboards to your table, and when she stomps, you don't think she's angry or anything. You think that this is the way she walks. Does that make sense? As you go like that,
Seems like a farmer.
A typical Kevin.
Exactly. And she sort of like stomps over to you, and she sort of like looks at you, and she's like go like that, and sort of like breathes in a whole load of mucus through her nose, and says, "Well, my he wants to see ya. Can he come and see ya?"
Does she address anybody in particular?
No, she almost like is sort of like staring up at the ceiling.
Gulliver sort of like.
There's a pause and she goes, "Oh bloody hell! Will you be quick? No wonder I'm so bloody short. I have to stand away wait for you guys to all say what you need."
Who are we talking about? Who wants to see us?
My master.
Who's your master?
Does he have a name?
Oh.
We don't know everybody in Lindo. Do you know who our master is, Bartleby?
Oh, hang on. She's new. She's new. Got it. Annalin.
Annalin and.
Yeah. So, can he come and see you or not?
What for?
He sort of like looks at you, Bartleby, and she says, "I carried the message. That's all." And when she gets close to her, you notice that there's two rather blackened teeth, that obviously from decay, and there's also several gaps, and there's a definite whiff of bad breath that comes out from her.
Amriel, help us. Yeah, we'll...
Yeah, okay then. Yeah, and she turns around and she stumps back out again.
I want to call after her. Wait, where are we meeting him?
And she does sort of like keep stomping out, and she goes outside, and all of a sudden there's a flourish, and it can only be described as a flourish, as the door opens and this rather dandy guy sort of like comes in and sort of like wafts his cloak over both his shoulders, and he looks exactly like the token that you're going to see, minus oh no, actually it's actually completely and utterly correct. Hang on a minute. He's about to arrive at your table.
Oh.
He comes marching in. He seems to have some kind of animal draped over one of his shoulders. And he sort of like comes flourishing in. For want of a better word, he looks a bit like a pirate. He looks almost like seagoing, and he doesn't have the book underneath his arm, but he does have this weird creature on his shoulder, and he comes sort of like in, and there's a flourish as he pulls out the chair, and without waiting for any invitation, he sits himself down at the table. And he stood there smiling like this.
Gulliver will say, "Hello."
And he goes, and he puts a hand up, and he looks. He looks at the girl, and she sighs. "I present for you my master. His name is Annalin." "Oh, thank you so much, Tiffin. Such a fine girl, I find. Such a fine girl. Welcome to the humble abode here in the tavern, and welcome to the prosperous town of Lindo. My name is Annalin. I am an alchemist at your service.
What's happened to your cat?
It is not a cat, dear boy. It is a creature from far off lands. If you observe its rather bushy tail, and at that point the creature drapes its tail round the guy's neck, you will notice the rings are black that adore it. She is, and beware, she is very picky about who she sits with and talks to. She is what is known by all as knowledgeable folk, a ring-tailed lemur, and her name is Petulia.
Does she like bread?
As sad to say, she only likes fruit and nuts.
Is this a creature that Hasra would have seen before in his travels?
Yeah, do you have a law skill to do with nature or wilderness?
I do have law nature, funny enough.
Excellent. Roll it
It's
away.
not the best in the world, but here we go. Oh, but that will do nicely.
That
thank you,
does very nicely. And there's positives and negatives. You have heard of these beasts. They are known as ring-tailed lemurs, but you are not familiar about them being domesticated and being pets. You know them from being troop-like animals, like monkeys and gorillas, and and prairie dogs. They sort of like come together. They normally walk on all fours with their ring-tailed up in the air, and you've never seen one as tame or as that. They've got these massive, almost like bush baby eyes that look at you.
Thank you.
Yes, I have a proposition. I am here to offer you my services.
What does an alchemist do?
Do not
Oh,
worry.
I know that, Bartleby, because the Order of the Kraken is their one of their primary functions is to provide potions and salves for and oils for
I
people.
am not a mere alchemist. I am the first alchemist here in Lindo. I have opened a small shop with my name above it on a sign. Get your elixirs from Annalin. And yes, and I hired this one as well. He points to the girl who has slumped down on the floor, and she's not sat cross-legged. She's sort of like sat on her bottom, hugging her knees, and she just sort of like looks up to him and says, "I am Tiffin. I am the apprentice of the wonderful, marvelous," and he sort of like prompts her, intellectual Annalin. Yes, as you can see, I am but a famous, or soon to be famous, alchemist.
So
Don't worry. My prestige, my prowess often makes people lose their words, become completely dumbfounded by my pure, unbelievable prowess with the bottle.
Why does your apprentice sound like she has a cold? Wouldn't you have bottles
Oh,
of...
she's always like that. Some kind of nasal cavity problem. I mean, to be honest with you, I managed to knock her cellar down quite a few silver coins because of it. I mean, you can hardly imagine her working as a fine establishment. And as he says that, he turns round to Basil and raises his voice. A fine establishment like this one. She would be snotting all over the place. And the girl sort of like frowns at him, and he says, "Tiffin, please do not try to engage in adult conversation. Just sit there." Yes.
So So how may we be of service, Mr.
No, it is not how can be service to moi. It's how I can be of service to you. For your names have travelled through the grapevine of Lindo. I've heard stories of your wonderful prowess, your fearsome battles, your powerful magic that you can cast, and I am in complete awe and wonder. He does hear down from the table. And I would like to become part of your elite, your prestige, your absolutely wonderful group of merry men.
I don't know about that.
I didn't know we were like.
Oh, do not be so modest, gentlemen. Everyone in Lindo knows about you. Anyway, I appreciate your bluntness, your get to the pointness, and so I would like to propose to you a proposal. And he sort of like pauses for a while, thinks about it, and says, I would like to offer you a proposal, as he probably realised that he used the word propose and proposal in the sentence together. I would like to offer you some assistance. If, of course, you are willing to return that assistance to me. As I have said, I am an alchemist of some perfected arts, and I would like to offer you, in return for you doing a simple deed for me, that you may even consider below your normal giant killing, dragon battling jobs, but it would be good for me, and I would like to pay you in return. Now, I know that you are all men of the fine bartering prowess, so I propose to you some agreement. I offer you a job, and instead of being paid in silver coins, you are paid by the wonderful concoctions, the elixirs of truth, fertility, and, of course, magic, instead of silver. Alternatively, I could pay you in elixirs when you want them, but you have to then do various tasks for me. So if you wish to have a powerful potion, obviously the task will be slightly more ambitious. I can, if you wish, create specific elixirs for you, but you would have to prepare and provide for me the ingredients. Or we can just agree to be firm friends, and therefore we help each other naturally because we are firm friends, and no coinage passes between our hands. So, gentlemen, what will it be? And before you answer, it is about time to take our break. So we will have a quick 10-minute break before we come back to the actual discussion with Annalin trying to sell his wares to the party. Please do go away, stretch your legs, grab a drink, grab something to eat, and we will be back in 10. See you all soon. And you are clear. Oh, sorry, I'm not.
Honestly, that's the worst thing ever. Everybody does that. If they ever I get asked to make coffee, they make shit coffee.
No, I didn't say shit coffee.
Make it how you drink it, and then they can suck it and see.
Yeah.
Just make it an average level so they don't go, oh, coffee. Pickles makes an amazing coffee. Pickles, can you make coffee?
We are live now. Just
I don't see the problem with this narrative. If I can make coffee, and everybody live knows that.
Well, there's just that every time there's coffee to be made, then you'll get asked to make it because you.
But
make
it's case in point. I get the milk every week for work, and I don't even drink coffee at work or tea. I don't use the milk, but because I once volunteered to get it, I now do it every week.
Well, you volunteered
Once.
Yeah, you put yourself in that prison.
Stop buying it.
yeah, I would
Just
stop.
say no.
And when they say, "Where's the milk?"
I go, oh, I didn't get it. And then I just get angry looks from about 12 people because it means they can't have milk in their coffee in the morning.
Well, man up.
Yeah, just say, oi,
Guaranteed
I don't drink coffee and tea.
Yeah, you'll get those looks, and then the
sorry.
following day.
Right, this is getting far too intense for me. I'm going to.
You're going to go to HR. Right? Bring up a grievance about milk.
Yeah.
Okay, let's leave the coffee, leave the milk, leave interns, and let's come back.
Or you can just build a bridge and get over it.
Justin in the chat has just said, tell them that you're lactose intolerant. And then,
But they know I don't use it anyway. Never mind. Moving
okay
on.
then. If anybody would like to link this to Longshank's EPG place of work. Okay, so
can you say you do get your money back, don't you?
Oh yeah, I get the money back. I just take it out of the money pot. But
okay, thanks. Bye.
happy, right?
I understand you got a mouthful of toast.
Back to the hairy hobgoblin, where a person who calls himself Annalin has pronounced himself an alchemist, setting up a shop within Lindo, and has come to the party for some kind of arrangement. And he laid out a whole load of options before we actually left, and he's now interested in what you think about those options. Yeah, go for it.
Annalin, could you perhaps give us a moment to discuss this as a group? A little privacy.
Yeah, just before we do that, somebody from chat has just said, Hasra, what are you eating? Because it looks so good.
I have some pate on toast. I don't do that little French squiggly thing.
Oh, pate.
Pate. I've got some blue Harrogate cheese and a selection of other cheeses.
Wow.
But thank you.
leftover Christmas cheese, in other words.
Yep. All the breeze gone.
Oh,
You're back
Oh
up.
yeah, we're back.
are you back? There must have been something wrong with the server. I'm not actually streaming to Facebook anymore, just so people know. Anyway, right. I think we're back now. I think something must have happened with the server. But yeah, #pro streamer. This is why I'm having to go on this is why I'm having to go on a course, unlike all you other pro streamers. Right, let's make sure that this. This is. Yeah, that's right. We're just missing some
Viewers.
I was 15 when I was there.
We're missing some.
What were you doing in chat? Looking for spoilers?
No,
Where?
I wasn't cheating.
Okay, right. I think we're up and running again. So yeah, so Annalin. Yes, I think Bartleby, you wanted to say something to him, did you?
I just asked if he could give us some space to discuss this
Oh
opportunity.
yes, yeah. And I
you
was
said he
sat
leaned
back.
back.
Yeah.
So I turned to the group and I said, "This seems like an equitable opportunity. Seems favorable to have this kind of relationship."
It could be useful, definitely in the future.
You might be able to get some love potions, Bartleby.
No. He did say fertility potions, I guess, but no. I don't need any of this.
Maybe you'll have a salve to help your hands, or for your thing that you got when we were up at the graveyard functions. Sorry, no,
It's Longshanks.
I don't know if that's even possible to fix these hands. The priest of Amriel said.
I think we can work together, Annalin.
Oh! Sorry, he says, I was somewhere completely else, not listening to your discussion at all.
Really?
Of course.
Oh. So, what's the first task that you have in mind for us?
How would you like to be paid? In grand elixirs that can actually transform your senses, your prowess in the bedroom, or even remove a communal garden wart? Or would you prefer coinage?
Do you have an elixir that can change any type of foodstuff into cheese?
There is a powerful elixir that will do that. It is called wine, my good man.
I think potions. I want to go for potions.
But these potions would be no good to me. Then again, coin is really no good to me either, but you know.
I think somebody actually has a potion already.
Yes.
It's got a worm in it.
Well, it's a centipede, but it's I'm saving it for a special occasion. But Hasra, anybody could use these potions. It may come critical at a certain time.
Maybe if
strange concoctions.
If I grew a wart, I could use them.
Well,
Exactly, my good man. The power of wart removal will be yours. So, that's the deal then. Yes, you will do a small task for me, and I will reward you in elixirs that you would desire. One each, or would that
Well,
be...
first, let's see what this task is first, and we can value it, I suppose, on the difficulty of this task.
Oh, of course, of course. It was a long time ago, where I was raised by my grandmother in a small abode, barely bigger than this table itself. I was raised by my grandmother after my parents were brutally butchered by some raving wild animal. I was so young to remember, and I was not too sure what had happened, but she raised me in the way of the alchemist. But, sadly, not so long ago, the evilness returned to the house, and although I barely escaped with my life, my poor grandmother perished.
My condolences.
However, the job is only one more thing. I need for great adventurers like yourself to return to my place of abode and recover my grandmother's alchemy book. Alas, I fled, fearing of my life, as my mother said, "Annalin, flee while you still can." It was sadly the last thing I ever heard or saw of her, as her screams punctuated the darkness, hitting that vibrant chord within my soul. Yes, she was butchered, and I've left the book there that I need to make some potions, and I was hoping you people would get it for me.
What animals were they? Was
Well,
it like your cat?
oh no, but it was feline in nature. Huge padded claws, padded feet, with razor-sharp claws sticking out from them, and teeth as long as the mouth. Huge black beast pouncing from the darkness, shredding everything inside. My grandmother just said, "Annalin, fly, you fool!" And I granted her dying wish as the cat launched itself at my poor grandmother and ripped her throat very nicely out of her neck. Bartleby, make a perception roll.
Will do.
You just hear from down to your left, you hear somebody go like this. It definitely came from Tiffin.
So Annalin, what does this book look like? And where do you think we'll find it? Is it under lock and key?
No, there is no lockable place in my grandmother's house. Sorry, my ex-grandmother's house. But fear not. Fear not. You do not need to know what it looks like, because my apprentice, Tiffin, does. And Tiffin suddenly goes, "She will accompany you. No, I will think no more of it. She will accompany you, won't you, Tiffin?" And she sort of like looks and goes, "Okay," she says. She knows what the book looks like.
How long ago did this happen?
But a couple of days.
And you've left your grandmother there unburied.
She was ripped to pieces. There were parts of her body flung to the four winds. There was entrails hanging from coat hooks. And at this point,
did you wait a little bit and watch?
I am tormented in my dreams. My dreams, they come to me at night and punctuate my insomnia with dark, horrific dreams of blood, entrails, and pulsing organs. You suddenly notice that a lot of the tavern has gone quiet as Annalin got louder and louder and louder, and you hear somebody go as if there's a slight retch somewhere, and he says, "I am sorry, crowd. I am hurt deep within, and these memories still punctuate my dreams, but I will reduce my voice. Sorry, Master Barkeeper. It was hideous. It was truly hideous."
Where is your grandmother's house? Is it in Lindo?
No, it is in the woods, just north of the town, slightly off to the northeast. And I have been told there is one among you who is an extreme tracker, who knows their way around the wilderness like anything. I presume it is you, says Annalin, pointing at Hengist.
Alas, not. It is not me. It's most likely my comrade Hasra, and he'll gesture across the table at Hasra.
You are the fable Hasra. You are the one who stalks their prey like a hidden beast. You are the one that flies down out of combat, who launches himself like a leaping tiger, who fears
I did not kill your grandmother.
Who fears nothing in this world, living or non-living.
No, that's another Hasra.
Yes.
my friend,
That's my brother, Hasra.
My apprentice Tiffin knows the way to the house, and she has agreed to accompany you and help you retrieve the book. I am also sure that she, despite her frame, is quite a fast runner, And I'm sure if battle ensues with the feline beast once more, you will be able to hold it at bay as Tiffin runs, fleet of foot, back to the safety of Lindo and my welcoming arms into my alchemy shop.
Whereabouts is your alchemy shop in Lindo?
You are more than welcome to see it, maybe tomorrow morning, just before you set off.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. At least then we know we can bring the goods back to you.
I agree. So, yes, it is probably a day's journey with some kind of transport. Second to that, it'll probably take 2 days of walking. And he looks down at Tiffin and says, maybe a little bit more with her short, dumpy legs. Alas, she is not made, she is not built for fleet of foot.
To be fair, I know what you mean. Gulliver here, he has an injured leg that cannot be fixed. And so we walk at his level. So she should be fine with us.
He sort of like does that stereotypical putting a hand over one side of his mouth in order to prevent Tiffin hearing. He says, maybe rolling her might be a better option if needs comes to needs.
Hengist and I are very adept in rolling things.
I have heard about your rolling prowess.
Just before we finish, one last thing. This is a beautiful creature. I've heard of them before, but I've never seen one tame like this. How did you do it?
Oh, it is quite remarkable. Quite remarkable. Sadly, there was a shipwreck, and a sailor came to my grandmother's house in desire for some kind of cure for a rather nasty disease or complaint that involved warts, open sores, and quite a lot of pus in very delicate regions. Sadly, despite my grandmother's prowess, the elixirs and oils proved ineffective, and he died some time after. So his pet here attached itself to myself, and so we have been fond companions for some time. And he strokes the tail of the lemur.
That's a beautiful story.
Right, tomorrow then, don't forget about transport. And he pushes his chair back. I suggest we meet outside this fantastic tavern tomorrow morning, say at 10 bells. It sounds good to me. Thank you for doing business with me. I really do appreciate it. Tiffin! And he sort of like snaps it, and she sort of like hauls herself up, and he sort of like does a flurry with his cloak and marches out of the tavern with Tiffin. So I go bang, 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 bang. And you hear Annalin said, oh, please do try to lift your feet, girl. Like that, I say, march out, and there's sort of like silence rests for a while and settles for a brief moment in the hairy hobgoblin before everybody almost like that record player starting up goes and goes back to the normal noise.
I think we're going to need some type of cart, to be honest with you. I don't think Tiffin can ride a horse. She doesn't look like the person that can probably ride a horse. We might need a cart to trundle her around in.
If the book is of a significant size, then it might be easier to carry it in a cart rather than heft it back.
That's true, and we can always put our provisions in there as well. Make it easier for us who are walking.
Did you recognise what might have killed his grandmother by his description, Bartleby?
Would I be able to roll lore monsters?
Yes,
see if
by all means, roll away.
Yeah.
And Hasra, you can roll your lore nature as well.
Yep.
I got a standard.
Yeah, so between you, you come up with the idea that it seems to be some kind of big cat. It seems a little bit more vicious. Cats tend to be feline, even if they're a predator, tends to be a lot more solitary and tends to avoid danger rather than they only attack weak or young. And there are some horrific stories of them attacking humans, but most of these you think are probably made up.
Yeah, it's unusual for the species to attack the same place twice.
Well, what if
Perhaps,
that's the feeding ground? Then wouldn't that just be a convenient meal spot?
or perhaps the mother and the grandmother have something that belongs to this thing. But you are right. Maybe if they are in the feeding zone, then yes. But why is it just such a big gap between the first one and the second attack?
Well, in many monster tales, there's a moral to the story. So perhaps you're right. There is something that was wronged with this creature, or it's an animal.
Yep, something to think about.
Well, it's something to talk about for hours while we're on the cart.
So, just out of interest, a sort of like a two-wheel cart costs about 60 silver pieces. A more like a wagon costs about 175. You can buy an additional horse with it, or you can buy an oxen, either or. Horses, however, tend to be a little bit more expensive. Sort of like a riding horse, a poor quality one, would be about 1,200 silver pieces. An ox, on the other hand, that could pull the cart. A poor quality one is about 150, while reasonable about 300, superior about 800.
Well, as we'll say, I'm quite happy to buy a cart, proper cart, with a good oxen, because it may come in useful later on, and I could keep it at my house anyway, just to forage and just keep it out in the countryside. Well, they want to eat the grass, just wander around, not forage for nuts in it, things like that. So yes, I'll pay for the cart and the oxen. So it'll be a proper cart and a halfway decent oxen.
And you sort of like go round to the.
But I would like to take. Sorry, before we go any further, I would like to take Bartleby and Gulliver with me. Oh, and Haggis. We'd all like to go because I'd like to use Bartleby and Gulliver to negotiate for me, please.
Fantastic.
And I'll check over the oxen. Yes.
Which is really good, because I've just got the haggling rules out here for me, so that's absolutely brilliant. So who is going to do the haggling? So if you need, it is actually going on your insight skill. And so somebody can augment the other person, but only one person rolls. So normally the person with the highest insight roll takes the lead, and anybody wishes to assist. You can't have more than two people, because otherwise it becomes a little bit more like bullying tactics rather than anything else. Or if you don't wish to support each other, and somebody else can support somebody with a knowledge skill or something like that.
I was going to say, I was trying to look for a skill that'd be handy for Hasra to augment by looking at maybe the cow or the oxen and saying, oh, well, there's a bit, there and a bit. I think survival's probably, but that wouldn't go, would it really?
Have animal law or anything like that?
No, sadly. Just nature law.
Yeah, so you could. I'm quite happy to split the two bartering up, so we can have a haggle about the cow, in which case your nature law will probably be able to augment somebody else's insight roll, and then we can have another insight roll over the whatchamacallit, the
Price?
the wagon,
plane.
the
Yeah.
wagon. So we'll have one for the oxen and one for the wagon.
Okay, so Gulliver will be doing the haggling aspect of it. I would have thought, unless
You should be able to see the sheet
Yeah.
now.
unless all of a sudden your influence has got higher than. I know you put some points into. What are you at, Pickles?
For insight?
Yeah.
No. 40.
Was it insight or influence?
Insight for haggling.
Yeah, insight's 40 for me.
Okay.
So my augment for you there would be an 8, and I'm happy to
Okay,
help.
So
Okay.
the 8 is for the haggle on the.
Okay then. So what you do is that you roll your insight roll to start off with. Let me explain the whole procedure. So you can see on the table there that it says insight, and then it says influence and commerce and willpower and commons. Yeah, can you see that? So you roll your insight roll to start off with. Okay, and you look down the column to see what level of insight you got. So if you got a critical insight roll, then when you actually do either influence or commerce, either of those two skills, can you see that your difficulty will be easy?
Mm-hmm.
Now I will roll my insight as well, and I'm going on the willpower commerce. Okay, so if I get a critical insight roll, if we both got critical, your task will be easy, mine will be super easy, very easy. Now, once we then roll that roll, and can you see down below, on the table down below, there's the difference in levels of success. So if you win, okay, you purchase, say, if you get 3 levels of success, so you get a critical and they get something else, then you will get, you gain the advantage, and you will only pay 25% of the whole price.
Right.
Okay. However, if the seller gets the advantage with 3 levels of difficulty, a success, then you will pay 200% the price, you know, and then that's it. So let's roll. The first thing that we roll is our insight rolls.
Okay.
So roll your insight roll. So that's a fumble. So your next roll has to be formidable.
But I can use a point of luck to re-roll that.
Yes, you can do.
Yeah.
Okay then. So yeah. So yours will just be a standard roll. Here's my roll. I get a 7, which is a normal success. It's not a critical. So he's at a standard as well. So now you're going to roll your influence or commerce, whichever one you want to roll, and I'm going to roll my willpower and commerce.
So we right. Okay. Okay. I'm going to roll my influence.
Okay.
I got a 41.
Standard. 41. You got a standard roll. I actually failed. So you have 1 level of success over me. If we'd both succeeded, it'll just go for standard price. So you have 1 level of success higher than me. So you actually gain the advantage on the cart. So instead of it being, where's my cart? I was on the horse page. Sorry. Oh no, it's up. I think it's. Can't find my vehicles. There you go. So you will get it instead of paying full price for the wagon. Are you going for a wagon or a cart?
Wagon, 4-wheeled wagon.
4-wheeled freight wagon, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would normally be 500 silver pieces, but you get it for 75%. So you get so half of that would be 250, half of
435.
43. Thank you, brilliant. So you get that as a reduced price, Gulliver. Well done. And now for the ox. Yeah. So are you rolling it?
I'm rolling it again. So it's influence. No,
sorry, 375. My maths is way off.
No worries. So it's still your insight to start off with.
I was going to augment it with my
law nature.
Law nature, so which is going. It's not very good, but it all counts.
It all counts. 5%.
Okay. So this is the roll for
insight first. Yeah.
For my insight.
This is for. So you got a standard success, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm actually going to use a point of luck.
Okay.
And change that to 4.
So that will be a critical then, won't it? So your influence commerce skill, the next roll will be an easy roll for you. That's the level that you're going to be at. People have got 37% inside. He gets a 42, so he fails. So he's going to be at a standard roll. Okay, then. So roll your whatchamacallit? Your
influence.
Influence or commerce. Yeah. So I fail. I got
up to a hard.
Yeah, you've got. It's just the same as combat and things like. It's not an opposed roll.
Right.
It's a differentiated roll. So you actually got 1 level of success. So again, the ox instead of what kind of ox are you going to go for? Poor, reasonable, or superior?
Just a reasonable ox.
Okay then. So
middle of the road.
Yeah.
Reasonable.
So that would cost you 300, but you get you get 25% off that. If you can work out the maths for that.
I just keep my head. 300 is going to be 150 is going to be 225, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Whatever it is, I'm not doing the maths. I'm DMing. Okay, brilliant. So you are now. Does the ox have a name?
Michael.
Yeah.
I was about to say, if it was a male or female ox, it doesn't matter. It's Michael, whether it's either now.
It's a male.
Michael's not a really good name, is it?
It's Hasra.
Let's call it.
Hasra, it's your ox and your carriage. So.
Yes, I'll think on this for a moment, and I'll come up with a really good name for you.
Okay then. So you sort of like start to think of a name, and you meet.
Call it Clover.
Is there anything else that you would like to do? You could probably think it's about a day to get there, so you might want to take provisions for 4 days just in case, which won't be a problem because you can pop it in the wagon.
Yeah,
So
we'll take a week's worth of provisions.
yeah, so check that off as well, and then if there's anything else that you would like to take, then just buy it as standard items. But can you stick it into the chat, the Roll20 chat? So just so I've got a copy of it. But I'm going to carry on telling a bit of the story as you continue. And you sort of like all went out and you bought the ox, and you got a really good ox, and you've arranged to pick it up at a suitable time, Hasra, and you sort of like buy a wagon, and you're sort of like walking back. It's about 9:30, and you still got plenty of time to get back to the hairy hobgoblin and go and see Annalin's shop. But something really peculiar happens, and you suddenly notice that there's a kerfuffle up in front of you. You're walking through a sort of like a merchant area of the town, and trade's brisk at 9:30 in the morning. Remember, people start early in Lindo, but there seems to be a crowd gathered around a shop. and there seems to be a whole load of shouting, a lot of abuse being thrown by the common garden people. They seem to be throwing, and you can see the spear tips of the city guard sort of like over the top of everybody's sort of like heads. What would you like to do? You're all together at this point.
Gulliver's just sort of like looking over, trying to see above to see what's happening, and then he'll turn around to Hengist and say, "Go and step in, Hengist. You're a noble of the city. They'll respect you."
So Hengist will nod and say, "Let's all go and have a look," and then he will sort of like start making his way through the crowd. If he has to sort of like barge his way, or if he just like type thing, people turn around and see that he's noble and whatever.
Okay, then. So if you're pushing your way through, then you're using brawn to push your way through. They're probably not looking at you until you start to push your way through, because you're coming from the back. Unless you want to do some kind of announcing via oratory skill.
No, he will sort of like push his way through the crowd a little bit.
You sort of like start to push your way through the crowd, with the other three sort of like coming in your wake as you push your way through. Go and make your brawn roll. Yeah, you sort of like start pushing people, and you get sort of like, "Oi!" And you sort of like push a woman and to one side, and she goes, "Mind where you put your hands!" Like this, as you sort of like push you through, and you get closer to the front, and as you sort of like push your way, people start to almost like get out the way as you push somebody out the way, and it's a young child that collapses to the floor and something, and you hear somebody sort of like shout, "Typical rich snobs, hate them," as you sort of like push your way forward, and your hand goes out to push somebody and hits a face of a small baby in crying arms or something. And you eventually get to the front, and as you get to the front, two city guards' spears come down and almost like bar your way. And one of them, what's your let's have a think. Let's see whether or not this guard actually recognizes you. We'll give it a percentage, I think. 25. It seems to be a rather tough bully type of guard that looks at you and says, "Sorry, no, you're not allowed to come any further from here." And then he sort of like looks at you, Hengist, and says, "Especially you," like this. And the Bartleby, roll your passion for the guards. And the other one says, "Oi, look, Mick, it's Bartleby! Oi, Bartleby!" And sort of like waves, and the other guy sort of like ignores you, Hengist, and sort of says, "Hey, Bart! Yeah, remember me? Yeah," and they're sort of like...
I respond to him. I say, if there's anybody injured, perhaps I can be of help? What's going on?
No, it's all right. We took action. We took action from your inside information. And he sort of like drops his voice slightly and says, "Don't worry, we've got him."
Yeah, just like the city guards. They get the problem makers.
And you notice that you're outside what appears to be a tailor's shop. And the door sort of like opens, and there's a rather tall, thin man with a beak-shaped nose, and the robes are hanging off him like as if he's got a thin skeletal frame. And he sort of like goes, "Unhand me, you ruffians!" like this. And the guards say, "I'm sorry, Mr. Clarence, you need to come with us. There's been some kind of evidence that has been brought together that you are illegally trading." And there's a sort of like a from the crowd, as if somebody shouts out, "You nasty person!" and uses some swear language that I won't use. And he says, "I am a reputable person of Lindo. I have to. No, I'm sorry. It has come to our attention that you have been less than reputable. You are an illegal scallywag." The guard says, and an old woman says, "I knew he was a scallywag. I knew it from the moment I saw that pointing up nose." And the poor Clarence gets pulled out, and could somebody just roll a 1d100 for me, please?
Gulliver wants to be
Incognito.
No, because he doesn't.
It reminds me. When I used to play D&D or AD&D or whatever like that, whenever anything happened, the thief, the thief on the road would automatically go, "I hide in shadows." As if he could just disappear, or I'll put on my ring of invisibility.
We're going to open this door. I hide in shadows.
So, 71. This item of some kind of rotted vegetable flies from out of the crowd and misses Clarence, splatters on the ground a short distance away, and somebody says, "Take that, you illegal crook!" And there's two guards, both one holding one of Clarence's arms and the other one holding the other arm. And he says this, "I am a reputable tailor of Lindo. There will be serious issues brought to your guards about." And then the one says, "We have very, very concrete knowledge that you were behind all this, Clarence. Your name was given to us specifically. You are naught but a swindler and an illegal shipment of goods, selling them at outrageous prices." And
Gulliver wants to be scanning the crowd to see whether or not he can see see maybe the person that was actually down in the sewers the previous night.
I've just gone on to
The scene of Hengist's massacre.
Yeah. But we don't need. We need this for just going to Annalin's shop. That's why I popped you on it. Make a. What are you looking for? Sorry, again.
See whether or not he can. See whether or not there's anybody in the crowd that resembles the other guy who was down in the sewer.
The fat man.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're what you know Clarence as. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Roll your perception. Oh, with eagle eyes, you sweep round.
But you spot him, stood right behind Hengist.
No, you look
with a dagger posed.
You look around and you can't see anybody like this man. The Clarence that you saw. Nothing at all. There's nobody similar. One little bit. A young girl comes out, running out of the shop, and sort of says, "Papa!" like this, and he turns around and says, Don't you worry, my dear child. I will. Papa, they're going to hang you. They're going to do what? He says as the guard sort of like, you will die. And you notice that the colour from Clarence's face sort of like drains, and sort of like they move towards where Hengist has made a sort of like a passageway, and with his hearty frame he sort of like moved everything out the way, and the guards sort of like come past with the struggling Clarence, and the girl tries to run after her and somebody else grabs her and she says, Papa, like this, and they walk past, and one of the guards looks at you, Bartleby, and says, don't worry, Bartleby, we always get our man. and sort of like not look at you and then look at the thing and go like that, and it takes Clarence, still now not struggling, now looking very limp, as if he's resigned to his fate, that he's going to be hung by his neck for illegal trafficking, as they sort of like walk over to the set off back to the guardhouse. Yeah.
It can still be Clarence, because they always say inside every fat man there's a thin man trying to get out.
I live by that all the time.
If you listen closely, you hear mine screaming.
Yeah. Yes, is there anything that you would like to do? I just noticed on the map, all there is Hengist. Let me bring the...
We were waiting for Hengist to do something.
There was one thing that Hengist was going to do, and that wasn't cower behind a giant Gulliver. He was going to look around the crowd. He was trying to see if any of the two people from the... I can't remember what it was called, the tavern that he
Bartleby slightly bigger than everybody. Yeah. You wanted to... What were
so the two men of Sniffers that Bartleby and he met in the tavern. I can't remember. Something mermaid. He wants to see if one of those two are around.
Yeah, the saggy mermaid.
That's the one. If they're sort of like skulking in the crowd.
By all means, roll your perception roll.
He will use his luck point to reverse that, if that's okay.
Cool. It must be nearly time to finish. Hengist, all you have.
I only have one.
You only used it right near the end. Oh, right, yeah. 20. Yeah, you don't. You scan around, but you don't see anything at all. But this would be a nice time to roll initiative for the... No, I'm only joking at this. This one, if there was a combat. Right, you should be able to all move your characters now.
No.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why is Gulliver's not working? Oh, I've assigned it to the game master, not Gulliver. Sorry. It's because our names are very similar.
Yeah.
Got it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, is there anything you would like to do? The crowd has started to dissipate, and there's a few decomposing of vegetables chucked. You do hear, you see one woman try to grab something, and the guy sort of like, "Don't throw that, that's a good one. We'll get a good silver coin for that. Throw this one. Nobody likes this, it's an aubergine." What do they call aubergines in America?
I have no idea.
Aubergines.
They're like a purple thing, and...
Is it eggplant?
Eggplant. Yeah, and somebody sort of like looks at her, he says, "Use this, nobody likes aubergines at all." And she sort of like lobs it in the general direction. It just sort of bounces off.
Mazaka from aubergine.
Yeah. And yeah, anything else you would like?
Gulliver's going to turn to Bartleby and say, "Bartleby, do you know any? And is there any spells that you know about that will allow an appearance to be changed so much from what we saw down in the sewers to what he looks like now?"
Well, I don't know anything about spellcraft or wizardry, Gulliver, but I've heard rumors of various...
Can we not catch them up, Bartleby? Could you not use your sight of Amriel to see whether or not he's under some type of magical spell?
I'm afraid Amriel... Oh, well, I could do the blessing of sight.
When you run your hands around and...
Yeah, you know what? That's a good idea. I'll do just that. Amriel, give me the sight, and Bartleby begins to do his aggressive arm waving, but he wants to do it quickly.
Okay, yeah.
Because the goal is then, after I've cast that, to speed walk over to where the guy's being carried off to, if I still can.
So cast your... is it... folk magic. Yeah. So you cast it, and how long does it last for?
I think it's a scene type
I see.
situation.
Okay, then. So you're going to have to catch up with them and move between everybody. So roll your streetwise skill as you try to make your way.
Gulliver's
through
going to be with him, and
Okay, so you roll your streetwise skill as well. Yeah, you sort of like you both sort of like set off, but Gulliver, your bad leg sort of like slows you down, and somebody bashes it, and you sort of like have to leave out of this chase, almost like say, Gulliver, Bartleby, go on without me. Go by yourself. you know, and Bartleby carries on, and you sort of like get closer and closer, and you manage to get up into sight of the of Clarence and the guards who are escorting him. And a couple of guards pass your way, going back into town, and they sort of like say, "Well done, Bartleby. You're the man. You're the man, Bartleby." Like this.
Thank you, dude.
Yeah, I say. As you go up that, you manage to see Clarence, and your witch sight engages, seeking for magical spells or anything like that, and you quite easily see that poor Clarence is devoid of any magic at all. There seems to be, if anything, he's generally just very mundane. There's no magical items on him. He doesn't seem to be able to wield magic himself. There seems to be no aura around him at all. He just seems to be slumped, as he's sort of like given up talking about his innocence, and as he's sort of like escorted away.
Question, for witch sight, would I, if somebody hadn't cast, if a sorcerer hadn't cast a spell in like over 100 days and they hadn't been around any magic items, hadn't drank any potions, would my witch sight detect any magic on them?
After a while it would wear off, and you know, so it could be after 2 weeks that it's worn off. But this, if he was using, it depends. What are you thinking? He might have used magic to appear differently down the...
That is what I'm thinking, and like right now it just seems like there's no active magic.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't look like he's magically active at all. It looks like he's very mundane. You sort of like go back. Is there anything else you would like to do while you're up here?
No, you're right. I would walk back puzzling on this new information.
And you get back to the group, and you walk and talk as you go to the hairy hobgoblin outside, if there's anything that anybody would like to speak now.
Does Gulliver have, like, he usually has traces of magic on him if I was to use witch sight on him, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Gulliver's used any magic, so for example, if he had used incognito recently, then you would probably see the remnants of the magic flowing from his face. But 2 weeks ago, you wouldn't see anything.
Well, I shared the information, of course, and say to the group, it's probably just that he hasn't used any spells regularly. That's probably why Amriel's not showing me anything.
But don't we need to be sure? I mean, what's going to happen to him? Was his daughter right? Would he be hung?
Well, if you cheat the count out of his money, he's probably going to try and hang you.
But what happens if it wasn't him? What happens if he was just a scapegoat?
Hengist,
what you would know these things.
Yeah.
What would the guard do?
Hengist, you should have, I think it's a customs roll.
Okay.
Which I think is a standard skill, yeah?
Yeah.
So roll your custom. Yeah, you sort of like talk to Hasra, and you basically say, you know, he's not going to be hung just for accepting legal goods. He might have his trade agreement wiped. Also depends how the merchant guild reacts to it. You know, he might get his license to sell revoked, but you don't tend to. I mean, if you actually hung everybody who was in that did something slightly illegal with trading in Lindo, then the majority
more shops.
yeah.
But will they do a thorough investigation? So maybe he may be proven innocent after this.
Well, I would have thought so. Or he could talk to the guild, plead his case with the guild of merchants here. As well.
Fingers crossed, the truth will out in this case.
Of course, it could still be him.
The guards investigated. I showed them what we'd found without saying that you guys were implicating or doing any crimes yourselves. Because we didn't.
No, this is true. But the only problem is you gave them a name but not a description. Is that right?
I'm trying to remember. I was telling them this over drinks.
Yeah.
Oh no!
I couldn't.
How many did you have?
No, it's not me that was drinking. It's they just get so loud and boisterous when they're drinking. It's all good fun. They're all great people, but a lot of back thumping and cheering.
Oh, well, we'll see what happens, and maybe we can use this to our advantage later on if we need to get rid of somebody.
Or perhaps next time you could talk to them not in the tavern.
I like them.
No. Yeah. Go with what works, Bartleby. It's what I say. Go with what works.
So you eventually arrive at the hairy hobgoblin outside, and as you arrive, sat cross-legged on the floor, in quite a lot of mud and dirt, and sits Tiffin, and she sort of like sees you approaching, goes like that, and gets up and turns to you and says, "Hark, will you follow me to the great my master's humble abode?" And she doesn't wait for any sort of like reply or anything from you. She just turns and starts to stomp off in the general direction. You notice that the back of her breeches are quite damp, and you suddenly realise that she's been sat in a damp patch on the pavement, and she seems to be completely oblivious to it. And you sort of like follow her through the streets, and she seems to walk with great purpose. And some people, as her head seems to be down, and she seems to be stomping backwards and forwards, and all of a sudden, you know, people sort of like go, she sort of like bounces into people and pushes them out the way, and they sort of like go, "Oi!" like that, and she just sort of like ignores them and keeps stomping around. And then all of a sudden you come up to a merchant store. It seems to be...
Is it like a stall or is it a shop?
A shop site, yeah. A
Right.
store, yeah, rather than a stall. Sorry, a store like a shop, yeah.
Yeah.
And you notice that it looks like it's been acquired very recently. There's no sign up that says Annalin's elixirs, and the shop window or the shutters are closed. And when you sort of like, Tiffin sort of like says, "He's in there," and you sort of like enter, and it's rather dark, and there's a few candles burning or lanterns burning because all the shutters are shut, and there seems to be shelves of with nothing in them at all. Everything seems to be rather empty. There don't seem to be any products for sale or anything like that. And Annalin comes out the back and says, "Welcome to my humble abode. You can see that I recently acquired this shop. And from you can see," and he sort of like points to what appears to be some kind of wooden mannequin in the corner from a well-versed tailor who has left rather abruptly for some unknown reason and has gone to a strange place unknown to me, far to the north. Where was it? And he sort of like turns to Tiffin and said, "Where was he going?" Tiffin. And she sort of like goes and shrugs. He says, "It will come to me. It will come to me." He says, "Yes, do look around. What do you think? Do you have the merchant eyes like someone like me and see the potential here? Ignore the furniture, the dark colours, and he sort of like pulls his finger across the top, the dust. Imagine glass vials full of magic and various sachets and bowls bubbling with marvellous elixirs. Can you see it? Can you see it?"
Are we able to see into the back?
Yeah, it seems to.
Shop?
Yeah, just roll a perception roll.
I mean, basically,
You
Gulliver
can see it's
sort of like trying to see. He wants to see whether or not there's any apparatus to be making potions with.
Roll your perception.
I'm going to use a point of luck to reverse that.
Yeah, you sort of like look out in the back. There seems to be, there doesn't seem to be much set up at all. There's a couple of boxes, wooden boxes that appear to be open and had straw in them, that have been opened, and you can see there's some glass vials on the side. There's also another crate on the floor, approximately the same size as this one. Then you can see in the back it goes out, there's sort of like a stove, and you can see there's like a small set of stairs that obviously goes up to the bedroom or whatever on the first floor. It definitely looks like Gulliver as if he's just moved in. You don't think that it looks like alchemy stuff, but it looks like he's literally just moved in.
Right. Okay. So Gulliver's going to say to him, "It looks very nice, Annalin. I can see it has lots of potential." And then the next thing he says, he's going to be watching him closely because he wants to make an insight roll to see whether or not there's any half-truths coming out. He's going to say, how long have you been practicing alchemy for?
Yeah, make an insight roll.
No.
He says, "As I told you in the tavern, I actually started when I was but a boy at the apron strings of my grandmother."
You must be very, very talented. What's the best potion you can make?
Well, I can make any potion once I get the book with the ingredients. Now, these ingredients are hard to find, and apparently there is various maps in the book as well.
But don't you have anything memorized? Can you not?
I left in such a hurry. Even thinking back to that moment, I break out into a sweat and fear that panic will consume me, dragging me down into an endless vortex of negativity.
I think it's best if we get the book back as quickly as possible.
And he sort of like instantly, "Good idea, yes. Now, Tiffin, are you prepared?" And she sort of like looks and sort of like picks up what appears to be a sack, like a Hessian sack. And she sort of like holds it up. "Yes, well, I have supplied her with a small amount of food, but as you can see," and she's sort of like,
I don't think a small amount is going to be sufficient.
"No." And he sort of like leans down to you and sort of like looks at her round frame and says, "I understand what you mean, Gulliver. It's probably never efficient enough for her. Never. She has enough. She can, I don't know, forage for berries on the way if need be. Did you get transport?
We got a cart because we didn't think Tiffin could ride a horse.
No, good. Tiffin, you will be in a cart. Please do not think you are some kind of wild animal. Please do not show yourself up in front of these kind and very noble. He looks at you, Hengist, and does a flourish. It says, Master Hengist, can I just say that, if you want me to make personal house calls to sell my wares to either any of you yourself or any of your rather noble and very astute friends, I am more than willing to do home visits. Yes, Sniffin, Tiffin, and be nice to them. Okay? Only answer when you've been spoken to, and no biting. You know it's bad to bite. And she sort of like goes like that, and she sort of stands up and sort of like whacks her sack over her shoulder. And he says, "Oh, I've drawn you a small map." And he sort of like goes out into the back and comes back with a piece of paper. And for those of you who have been out, well, you've all been this way. It's almost like going out the northern gate of Lindo and heading up to the path that goes up alongside the river. Can you remember it? It goes up and eventually gets to Ubin Falls. But if you remember, as you go along the path, you go to one side of the path. There's the river on the opposite side, and there's a forest. Further up, a lot closer to Ubin Falls, you actually met the bandits in there. I don't know whether or not, were you there, Hasra, or not?
I wasn't. No, I've seen it.
Yeah, and it seems to be the hut doesn't seem to be sort of like very far north. It seems to be a little bit closer than the bridge over to the farmlands, but a little bit further into the actual the forest. And he goes, he hands this to you, and you can sort of like have a look at it. And at the same time, he hands a piece of paper to Tiffin, and says, "Now then, Tiffin, remember when must you give this piece of information to the kind gentleman here?" And she sort of like goes, "Once we got the book." And he says, "Yes, I have written you something, kind gentleman, that I would pray that you keep, do not look at until the books are safely in your hands. There is no magic on the parchment, but I do trust that you will honour me in this small request." "Right, Tiffin, I think it's time for you to go." She goes, and she sort of like looks over at you all. I'm just going to roll a 1d4.
Please attach yourself onto Hengist.
Well, I'm doing it so Gulliver, you're number 1, you're at the top. Hengist is 2, Hasra's 3, and Bartleby's 4.
Oh, yeah? It's going to be Bartleby. You always roll high.
1!
No, you're lying.
Honestly, it's a 1. So
Well.
Tiffin sort of like looks round everybody, and sort of like her eyes cast on you, Gulliver, and she sort of like stomps over and sort of like stands next to you, and you sort of like look at her. And
Gulliver look at her and go, "Hello.
Will you be my girlfriend?"
He goes, and she just sort of like looks at you and goes,
Gulliver go.
she turns around and she looks at you, and she's got that mean look in her eyes, and she just goes,
Gulliver's like, "I know magic."
She just sort of like keeps her head down.
Let's go.
Travel well, he says. So you head off. Thank you to Hasra, who's put the information in the chat for what he's got with him. And the rest of you, just make sure you pop it in there sometime. And you head off. Do we have a name for the ox yet?
No, I was too busy going through the price list. Let's call him
Jeff.
Gordon.
No.
Jeff's a good one.
Jeff is a good one.
Brutus.
Brutus.
There we go. Brutus
Okay.
the ox.
Brutus. Yeah, and you sort of like shackle them up. Who will actually be driving?
I think I've got the best ride skill, so I'll be
Driving, not riding.
Oh my life.
Drive skill.
Oh no.
I think Gulliver did a driving.
I
I
found
drove a car once as well, didn't he?
I'm about a quarter.
I've handled lots of horse and carts before.
Who has actually got?
Do you feel safely to drive? Maybe I can help you, Gulliver, because Brutus is a strong animal. I will help you.
Okay,
We're
then.
gonna have one lane together.
Well,
Well, I can do that, yeah.
Hasra could advise as well. What's Hasra's drive skill?
23.
Okay, so
That's almost as bad as mine.
augment that.
That's going to be 5, isn't it?
Okay.
Go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we
Should have just bought a horse, shouldn't I?
drive. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Gulliver's going to go up to the ox before he sets off, and he's going to get really close to it, and he's going to say, "Hello, Brutus. I'm Gulliver. I'm going to be leading you to where we're going to be going." And then he's going to go back and he's going to get up onto the.
And can I just say, can I say all the time you've like got a shadow with Tiffin, just sort of like it's sort of like every time you step forward, she just sort of like steps forward with you, and if you turn too quickly, you sort of like bump into her, and she grunts and sort of like moves out the way. So she's sort of like up, you sort of like up in the driving seat with Hasra, and then because you're helping unless you want to walk, but probably help. And Tiffin's in between you, and with a sack on her lap, and there's definitely this strong smell of ammonia is sort of like wafting around in the air. Yeah, go for it.
Actually, before he does that, when he goes to Brutus and he sort of like rubbing the side of its neck, and they can hear him saying things. He wants to close his eyes and then open them.
Rack him.
They're all going to be sort of like watered over, and I want to try to get a telepathic link with the animal.
Just to raise your IQ.
But you can, I think if it's I think you can do. I think it says you can do emotion. I think it's. Let me just cast it, and then we can see what it.
He's still there.
Pictures.
So it allows me to communicate sort of like mental pictures with it. So I almost want to. I almost want to sort of like try to communicate that by it taking us where we're going to do. We're going to make sure that it gets fed and it's watered, and we're not going to treat it poorly.
So, what's the intensity of the spell?
So my intensity comes out at 10.
Right. So the caster can form telepathic links with beings of an intelligence up to twice the. So that would be 20. Okay then. So you need to. What's your duration on it? 15 minutes.
I mean, my duration will be 15 minutes, but it's almost like I want to try to almost like establish a bond
Okay then.
between me and I need to roll my.
Can I just ask, do you actually have a drive skill?
You'll never know.
Yes. It's a standard skill, isn't it?
Yeah.
The thing is, Gulliver has just been really, really lucky every time he's got onto a cart and driven it. He was when who do you call it? Dominic was with us, and he was when we had the what did we call the what do you call it? Donkey.
Yeah, we had the two wheel cart, didn't we?
Anyway, I'm going to take minutes as I get my link, but
what's the resist?
it's resisted by its willpower.
Right. I've actually got the stats up now for cattles
Willpower 99.
cattles and cows. No, it's there's a variety because it randomly generates 6 for me, but I always take the first one no matter what. So its willpower is 12.
400.
Rejection.
Oh dear.
That's just our luck, isn't it?
It was the image of cheese that came into your mind at that time.
I don't think it's a crit though.
What's your?
12.
Well, it's not then. In which case, I succeeded.
Yeah, because isn't a crit 1/20th? Is that right?
Well, you because what's
So it'd be 2, wouldn't it?
yeah.
No.
Yeah, rounding up to 2.
No, but yeah.
It'll be 2.4.
Well, it'd be 3 then.
And in which case we round up. So in which case it's a
It's a
3.
crit. Yeah.
Is that right?
What is it? 12.
Yeah. Hang on, I've got a table.
Oh, it's 20%, isn't it?
Is it? I'm trying to think now.
Where's your table? Just bring it up on your table.
And it's just got the table's just got difficulty rolls, etc. I just need to.
Well, why don't I just do a willpower? What's my willpower?
20%.
20%.
So 0.20 of 12 equals 2.4. That's 20%. That's your crit, isn't it? Is that right?
Okay, so he succeeded.
Yeah, but it's not the fact whether or not it's succeed. It's succeeded no matter what. But the difference is, if it's a standard 3, you've won. If it's a crit, then it's won because it's anyway. Tell me what you would like to do.
What's that? What have you done there, Hasra?
I just put in a blank skill of 12, and it says 2's not a crit. So 1 must be a crit.
It was a 12 and you rolled a 20.
Yeah, but if I got a 2, it would only be Herculean.
Formidable is half your skill. Herculean is a Herculean 1/20th of your skill.
It must be.
Let's have a look.
So yeah, crit's 1/10 of your skill, isn't it?
Yeah, Herculean is reduced the skill value by 1/10. Anyway, I'm just going to carry on looking it up, but you tell me.
Okay, so what I wanted to do, as I'm trying to communicate with it, I'm almost like want to try to communicate images of us looking after the beast.
Okay.
almost like in return for it taking to us where we want to go, it's going to be there's going to be images of us feeding it, making sure it's covered.
Yeah. So just to let you know,
trees during the if it's raining.
I would have loved for it to make a roll. I actually made that because that would have been absolutely hilarious if it actually
would have been our luck.
Actually,
attack Gulliver.
Gulliver, the most powerful magic, tries to communicate with an oxen, and in its mind it sees.
Yeah. You were trying to communicate with me. I have controlled nations. I am Brutus.
Yeah. So a critical success is equal to 1/10 of the skills thing. So 1/10 of 12 would be 1.2, which would round up to 2. So it did not critical. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you could communicate this to the. I just wish it. That would have been.
And then once
use a point of luck.
Yeah.
Even if it's just to get it going in the right direction. After I've done that, I'm going to go back round, get up onto the front of the wagon, and I'm going to tap the reins onto Brutus's back to get him going.
Okay, go for it.
Can I augment it by anything?
By 5.
I've got 5%. Do I get anything for casting the spell?
Well, that will decrease the difficulty.
All right, okay.
You never get additions to the thing. So yeah, so use the sort of like you didn't even need
baby
that.
Driver.
Yeah, use this sort of like quite sort of like whip the leash, the reins on the ox, and Brutus sort of like starts a steady plod forward through the streets, and you set off, and it's about you're going to leave about 10 o'clock in the morning, so you've got a good day's journey, which will probably take you out to the edge of the woods. And as you sort of like trundle along, with Bartleby and Hengers sat in the back with the provisions, Hasra and Gulliver, you're up at the front, and you sort of like plodding along, and Gulliver's quite good at this, leading this cow, and after a while the slow rhythmic plod of Brutus lulls Tiffin to sleep, and she just quietly leans up against Gulliver and leaves a greasy mark on your robe where her hair was, closes her eyes and drifts off to sleep. And that is a perfect place to leave it for today. I think there's no adventure next week because I think Longshanks EPG, you're not here, is that correct?
I'm not around next week.
So the week after, we will pick it up from... We will say that you will go up and we'll be camping for the first night. Okay? You haven't got... it's going to take you less than 2 days, but you don't have a really speedy animal, so you're going to have to do one overnight stay. So we'll pick it up from that in the next session and see how it goes in the house of grandmother. Okay then, does anybody have any announcements to give before we go? No?
Nope.
Brilliant. So Bartleby, any magic points that you cast, did you cast any magic points?
I cast one,
yes.
Which site is what I used this
Yeah,
session.
so, and both you and Gulliver will start the next session with your reduced magic points, but we'll be going straight into an evening, and so you will regather your magic points overnight. And have you used any of your devotion pool, Bartleby?
I had from the last adventure. Did that not replenish?
That will have replenished, but you haven't
Okay.
cast any spells from your devotion pool this adventure. No.
I've got 4 out of 4.
Brilliant. Okay then, so we will arrive next week, the week after, sorry, when we are camping for the first night under the stars with an ox called Brutus, a wagon, 4 adventurers, and a young girl by the name of Tiffin. And we will
Every time.
go from that point. Excellent. Thank you so much for coming along and watching our role-playing games tonight. I hope you enjoyed it. Please remember that you can find all the past plays, actual plays, over on my YouTube channel. The link's in the chat, as well as rule videos explaining what is actually going on. Till next time, can I please remind each and every one of you to remember to be who you are and say what you think, because the people who mind don't matter and the people who matter don't mind. Have fun, everyone, and we will catch you all later. And until then, happy role playing. See you all later. Bye.